Welcome to my channel, Most Worth Coins WC, where history lives in your hands. If you're passionate about rare coins, vintage currency, and the fascinating stories behind them, you're in the right place. Don't forget to watch the full video, share it with your fellow collectors, like and subscribe to stay updated with more valuable content every week. So, let's get started. The 1965 Washington quarter dollar holds a critical place in the evolution of American coinage. Though outwardly appearing almost identical to its predecessors, this coin marked the end of an era and the dawn of another. On the surface, it retained the same design used since 1932. But beneath that familiar exterior, the 1965 quarter bore the seeds of a radical shift in materials, minting policies, and economic philosophies. In a time marked by mounting inflation, coin shortages, and public distrust in currency, the 1965 quarter became a symbol of the U.S. government's attempt to preserve the integrity and functionality of its coinage system. With no mint mark present, due to a special 3-year policy eliminating mint origin marks, the 1965 quarter from Philadelphia was a national issue, unified by purpose and stripped of regional identifiers. The obverse, front, of the 1965 quarter features the enduring bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, a respected American sculptor. Washington is depicted in a left-facing profile, his features dignified and stoic, reflecting the neoclassical sensibilities of the early 20th century. The image evokes strength, moral clarity, and a connection to the nation's founding ideals. Above the portrait, the word liberty is prominently inscribed, a direct homage to the philosophical cornerstone of the United States. To the left of the bust is the motto, "In God We Trust," which became a standard element on U.S. coinage beginning in the mid-20th century. Below the bust, the date 1965 is clearly struck, indicating the year of mintage. This year holds enormous significance, not just because of the events in the wider world, but because 1965 marked the transition from precious metal to base metal coinage in the quarter denomination, a decision that would forever change the landscape of American currency. On the reverse, back of the coin, we find the familiar and patriotic imagery of a bald eagle with wings spread wide. The eagle clutches a bundle of arrows in its talons, symbolizing America's readiness for defense, and it perches atop an olive branch, representing peace. This heraldic design, also by John Flanagan, is powerful in its simplicity and balance. Above the eagle's head curves the text, "United States of America," while below that lies the Latin phrase, "A pluribus unum," out of many, one, a reference to the unity of the states. The denomination quarter dollar is inscribed along the lower rim of the reverse. The styling is deliberate and traditional, reflecting a sense of continuity in a period of economic and material upheaval. The reverse's symmetrical design and conservative composition also speak to the U.S. Mint's desire to maintain visual stability while changing the physical structure of the coin. What truly sets the 1965 quarter apart is not its appearance, but its composition. Prior to 1965, quarters were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, a tradition dating back to the earliest days of American coinage. However, by the early 1960s, the price of silver began to rise significantly, driven by market forces, increasing industrial demand, and international speculation. As the intrinsic metal value of coins began to exceed their face value, hoarding became rampant. Silver quarters disappeared from circulation, replaced by paper substitutes, coin shortages, and public frustration. In response, the Coinage Act of 1965 was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson. It removed silver from circulating dimes and quarters entirely and replaced it with a new clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. This change was revolutionary, both in its economic logic and metallurgical innovation. The 1965 quarter is the first clad quarter in U.S. history. It weighs 5.67 grams, maintains the standard 24.26 millimeter diameter, and has a reeded edge, like its silver predecessors. While the new composition was designed to look similar to silver, its physical and acoustic properties were different. Clad coins sounded duller when dropped, and their edges revealed a copper-colored stripe that was not present on silver coins. These differences, while subtle, were quickly noticed by the public. Some resisted the change, viewing the new coins as inferior or symbolic of governmental betrayal. However, the transition proved successful in curbing hoarding and stabilizing the coin supply. The U.S. Mint produced vast quantities of 1965 quarters. Over 1.8 billion were struck, most of them at the Philadelphia Mint, though no mint marks were used. This decision to temporarily eliminate mint marks from 1965 to 1967 was made to discourage the collecting of coins by mint location, which had also contributed to coin shortages. Despite its enormous mintage, the numismatic value of most 1965 quarters remains relatively low. Because so many were produced and widely circulated, they are common in worn condition and usually hold no value above face unless they are in uncirculated or mint state condition. Even so, due to heavy production and overuse of dies, many uncirculated. 1965 quarters exhibit weak strikes, poor luster, or contact marks. Truly high-grade examples, especially those graded MS66 or better by PCGS or NGC, are considerably rarer and more desirable. They can command modest premiums, especially if they feature strong strikes, brilliant original luster, and clean surfaces. Furthermore, error coins from 1965 are especially interesting to collectors. These include off-center strikes, die cracks, double strikes, and the rare but sought-after 1965 silver planchet error, in which a coin intended to be struck in copper-nickel was accidentally struck on a leftover 90% silver blank. These silver planchet errors are extremely rare and valuable, often selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars when verified by third-party grading companies. In historical context, the 1965 quarter arrived in a turbulent yet pivotal time for the United States. The country was deeply engaged in the Vietnam War. The civil rights movement was reshaping society, and space exploration was reaching toward the moon. Amidst this backdrop, the transformation of coinage seemed small, yet it reflected broader themes of modernization, resource management, and adaptation. Just as the nation was adjusting to new social and political realities, so too was its monetary system. The public may have seen the 1965 quarter as just another coin, but it symbolized a government trying to preserve order and functionality in a rapidly changing world. The quarter that had once contained intrinsic value in silver now relied entirely on public trust in its fiat value. This was a profound philosophical shift in how Americans understood money. The design legacy of the 1965 quarter also cannot be understated. Despite dramatic changes in materials, the U.S. Mint retained the classic Washington and eagle imagery, which by then had become deeply familiar and almost sacred to generations of Americans. That continuity helped ease the public into accepting the new coins. While modern coinage has since embraced numerous design changes, especially beginning with the 50 state quarters program in 1999, the 1965 quarter still echoes through numismatic history as the start of a new era. Its unchanging design, even during such a material revolution, reflects the balance between tradition and innovation. In conclusion, the 1965 Washington quarter, often mistakenly believed to have a D mint mark, serves as a foundational artifact in the story of modern American coinage. It represents the moment the United States officially broke from silver in its everyday coins, embraced a new clad alloy for cost efficiency and coin longevity, and recalibrated the meaning of value in a world increasingly moving toward fiat currency systems. Though more than 1.8 billion were struck and most now carry only face value, the coin's historical, technological, and cultural significance is immense. Whether found in an old drawer, change jar, or collector's album, the 1965 quarter offers a tangible link to an age of transition, one in which the United States and its coins were reshaping themselves to meet the demands of a new era. The 1968 D Washington quarter dollar, minted at the Denver Mint, is a significant representative of post-Silver era American coinage. Issued just 3 years after the pivotal year of 1965, when silver was officially removed from circulating quarters. This coin embodies the continuation of traditional American coinage motifs amid a backdrop of economic, political, and technological change. With its mintage occurring during a time of national unrest and global tension, the 1968 D quarter offers a fascinating glimpse into not only the evolution of U.S. numismatics, but also into the culture and historical backdrop of the late 1960s in America. It sits firmly in the period of transition from precious metal to base metal coinage and reflects broader themes of monetary policy, industrial design, and national identity. On the obverse front side of the 1968 D quarter, we see the enduring image of George Washington, the revered first president of the United States. This portrait was originally sculpted by John Flanagan in 1932 for a commemorative issue marking Washington's 200th birthday and was subsequently adopted as the permanent obverse design. Washington is depicted in a neoclassical style, facing left, his expression both solemn and dignified. His hair is tied back in a colonial queue with a ribbon, a detail that anchors the design firmly in 18th century iconography. The word liberty arcs across the top of the coin, reinforcing one of the most essential principles upon which the country was founded. Just below Washington's chin, one finds the familiar motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has been featured on American coinage since the Civil War and became mandatory on all U.S. coins in 1956. At the very bottom of the coin lies the date 1968, and directly to the right of Washington's neck is the D Mint mark, identifying the coin's origin at the Denver Mint. The obverse layout remains balanced and classically inspired, with strong symbolic resonance and timeless design elements. The reverse back side of the 1968 D quarter continues with John Flanagan's equally iconic eagle design used from 1932 through 1998. Centered prominently on the reverse is a bold, bald eagle, the national bird of the United States, with its wings fully spread in a powerful stance of vigilance and freedom. The eagle grasps a bundle of arrows in its talons, representing strength and military readiness, while perched atop an olive branch, symbolizing peace. This imagery, common in heraldic traditions, illustrates the U.S. government's dual commitment to defending liberty and promoting peace. Arched above the eagle is the inscription, "United States of America," and just below that, in slightly smaller type, is the national motto, "A pluribus unum," Latin for "out of many one," referring to the unity of the American states. Finally, the denomination quarter dollar is inscribed along the lower rim. The composition is symmetrical and heraldic in style, with strong patriotic symbolism that remained untouched for over 6 decades. From a technical and metallurgical standpoint, the 1968 D quarter reflects the major shift in U.S. coinage that took place in the mid-1960s. Prior to 1965, U.S. quarters were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper. However, rising silver prices and coin hoarding during the early 1960s prompted the U.S. Treasury to introduce a clad coinage system beginning in 1965. The 1968 D quarter is part of this clad coinage era and is composed of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This 3-layered construction, often referred to as cupro-nickel clad, not only reduced production costs, but also improved coin longevity in circulation. The coin weighs 5.67 grams, measures 24.26 millimeters in diameter, and features 119 reeds along its edge. These specifications have remained standard for quarters ever since, continuing to the present day with only minor variations due to wear and minting processes. In terms of mintage and availability, the Denver Mint struck over 101 million. Washington quarters dated 1968, making the 1968 D quarter relatively common in circulated condition. It was the first year the Denver Mint began using the D mint mark again on quarters after the temporary removal of mint marks between 1965 and 1967. As such, collectors often view the 1968 D as a milestone in mint mark restoration. While the coin is plentiful in worn condition and easily found in circulation even today, specimens in mint state, uncirculated condition, especially those graded MS-65 or higher, are significantly rarer and of interest to numismatists. Particularly desirable are coins with full strike details, where every feather on the eagle's wings and every strand of Washington's hair is clearly defined. Coins with sharp strikes, brilliant luster, and minimal contact marks are prized by advanced collectors and may be submitted to grading services such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, for certification. When evaluating the numismatic value of a 1968 D quarter, it's important to consider condition, rarity, and any minting errors. In lower circulated grades, these quarters typically hold only face value. However, in uncirculated condition, MS-60 and above, values begin to rise, with the highest premiums reserved for coins in pristine condition. A 1968 D quarter graded MS-67 can be worth over $100–200 USD, depending on luster, toning, and eye appeal. Even more valuable are coins with errors and varieties. Some examples may show doubled dies, where letters or numbers appear to have been stamped twice, though no major doubled die varieties are widely recognized for this year. Other potential errors include off-center strikes, die cracks, or planchet flaws, all of which can appeal to specialized error coin collectors. The presence of such an error can elevate a 25-cent coin to several dollars or more, especially when authenticated and encapsulated by a reputable grading service. Historically, the year 1968 was one of profound social, political, and cultural upheaval in the United States. It saw the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, widespread protests against the Vietnam War, and the continuation of the civil rights movement. This turbulent backdrop adds layers of cultural significance to coins minted during this time. Though small and often overlooked, coins like the 1968 D quarter served as silent witnesses to the era's strife and progress. They passed through countless hands, perhaps through the hands of protesters, veterans, students, and everyday workers, facilitating transactions that made up the daily fabric of American life. Each one carries with it the silent legacy of a nation grappling with profound change while holding on to its traditions. Beyond its historical and monetary importance, the 1968 D Washington quarter also holds artistic value. Flanagan's Portrait of Washington, though often critiqued for its conservative or staid style, has endured for nearly a century as one of the most recognizable numismatic images in the world. Its continuity across generations has made it a cultural artifact, and for many Americans, it is the face of currency itself. The eagle on the reverse, too, has become deeply embedded in American iconography, reflecting the strength, vigilance, and ideals of a nation that looks both inward and outward. Though replaced in 1999 by the state quarter's reverse designs, the 1932–1998 Eagle reverse holds a place of honor in U.S. coin history. In conclusion, the 1968 D Washington quarter is far more than a piece of circulating currency. It is a time capsule, a small disc of metal that reflects the values, tensions, and transitions of a complex era in American history. It represents the shift from silver to base metals, the restoration of mint marks, and the continuation of classic American design. While millions were struck and circulated widely, Those in top condition or bearing striking errors remain prized. Collectibles. Whether viewed through the lens of history, design, economics, or personal memory, the 1968 D quarter stands as a modest but meaningful emblem of American life during a decade of transformation. Holding one today is not just holding 25 cents, it's holding a story. The 1985 D Washington quarter dollar is a circulating coin minted by the United States Mint at the Denver facility, one of the most prolific coin-producing mints in the world. This coin features the portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States, and continues a long-standing series that began in 1932, originally to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. Over time, the coin evolved from a one-year commemorative into a standard circulating coin, with only moderate design changes until the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. The 1985 D quarter is part of this long-running standard design phase, which continued with few modifications for decades, and holds historical significance as it reflects both the continuity and subtle transformation in American coinage leading up to the dramatic redesigns of the late 20th and early 21st centuries. On the obverse front of the 1985 D quarter, the central feature is a detailed profile of George Washington, facing left. This bust was designed by American sculptor John Flanagan, whose work was selected for the 1932 commemorative coin and then adopted permanently. The image of Washington is strong and classical, marked by sharp lines that emphasize the heroism and dignity of the founding father. Above the portrait arches the inscription, "Liberty," a foundational value of the United States. Just below Washington's chin, aligned slightly to the left, is the national motto, "In God We Trust," which had become a standard element on American coinage since the 1950s. The date 1985 is prominently placed at the bottom center of the coin, and the D mint mark, indicating that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, appears just to the right of the ribbon that ties Washington's hair in a queue. The obverse has remained largely unchanged throughout the years, except for slight stylistic refinements due to wear on dies and changes in metal content. The reverse, back, of the 1985 D quarter continues the traditional eagle design used from 1932 to 1998. Dominating the reverse is a majestic bald eagle with its wings spread out across much of the coin's surface. The eagle's head faces left, and its claws clutch a bundle of arrows, a classical representation of military strength and defense. Below the arrows, the eagle is perched on an olive branch, a symbol of peace. Together, these emblems represent the nation's strength and readiness, tempered with a desire for peace. Above the eagle, curving across the top rim, is the country's name, United States of America, followed beneath by the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. This phrase emphasizes the unity of the states into one nation. Finally, the denomination is spelled out across the bottom, quarter dollar. The reverse design was created by John Flanagan as well, and it presents a dignified and symmetrical composition, familiar to generations of Americans who grew up using this coin in everyday commerce. In terms of mintage, the Denver Mint struck approximately 519,962,888 quarters in 1985, a very large number that reflects the high demand for circulating coinage during the Reagan-era economic expansion. This high mintage figure means that 1985 D quarters are not rare in the general sense. They remain very common in circulation and are regularly found in pocket change, bank rolls, and coin jars. However, like all coins, condition matters greatly, and pristine examples, especially those in mint state condition, MS-65 or better, are much scarcer and valued by collectors. Coins with minimal wear, strong strikes, and no post-mint damage are desirable, especially those that exhibit full details in Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers. The vast majority of 1985 D quarters exist in circulated condition and hold only face value, but uncirculated specimens or coins with unique features such as off-center strikes, double dies, or planchet errors can command premiums. From a technical standpoint, the 1985 D quarter is composed of a clad metal alloy, known officially as a clad sandwich. The outer layers consist of 75% copper and 25% nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. This composition was introduced in 1965, replacing the 90% silver coins previously in use. The total weight of the coin is 5.67 grams, and it has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters and a reeded edge. The transition to copper-nickel clad coinage was largely driven by rising silver prices in the 1960s, which made it economically unsustainable for the U.S. Mint to continue striking silver coins for circulation. The 1985 D quarter, therefore, is part of the broader era of modern base metal coinage, reflecting a time when efficiency, cost-saving, and durability became top priorities for the Mint. Economically and culturally, the quarter plays a significant role in everyday American life. In 1985, the quarter was still a crucial denomination used frequently for payphones, vending machines, laundromats, toll booths, and parking meters. Its versatility and value made it one of the most commonly circulated coins. This was a time before debit cards and mobile payments were widespread, so pocket change had real purchasing power. The 1985 D quarter would have passed through millions of hands spent on morning coffees, movie tickets, arcade games, and highway tolls. These coins serve as tiny time capsules of their era, reflecting both the utility of coinage and the permanence of historical symbols like Washington and the eagle in the collective memory of the nation. For collectors, the 1985 D quarter is typically not a key date, but it does play an important role in completing date and mint sets of Washington quarters. It is also frequently used in coin roll hunting, where hobbyists search through large quantities of circulated coins looking for high-grade examples, errors, or varieties. Some 1985 D quarters have been reported with minor doubling, die cracks, or weak strikes, though these errors are generally of low value unless they are dramatic and well-preserved. Advanced collectors may seek certified high-grade examples, which are slabbed and graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC, often aiming for grades of MS-67 or better. While a common date in general, achieving a top-tier gem grade with perfect luster and no contact marks is a challenge, and such coins can sell for significant premiums. In summary, the 1985 D Washington quarter dollar is a representative coin of its time, both ubiquitous and historically rich. It stands at the crossroads of tradition and modernity, carrying forward a design from the Great Depression into the Reagan years, before the Great Design overhaul of the 1999 State Quarters program. With over 500 million minted, it is a coin of the people. But like all mass-produced items, the finest preserved examples tell a story of careful handling, numismatic care, and the enduring appeal of American coinage. From its bold eagle reverse to the noble profile of George Washington, the 1985 D quarter remains an enduring piece of metal that encapsulates the values, artistry, and function of American money in the late 20th century.